The way I got involved in this business is kind of indirectly. I used to be a salesman working for NBC. That was back in the 50s. And I was selling syndicated things like Douglas Fairbanks Presents and The Visitor and reruns of old Hopalong Cassidy movies, that type of stuff. And then eventually I left there and I went to work for MCA because I wanted to move up into the big time, and I got involved in selling network television. And I came up with an idea for a golf show. They represented Arnold Palmer and Gary Player when those guys were ruling the golf world. And I came up with a little show called Challenge Golf, put them together, and they took on all comers. And I sold it to Lincoln Mercury, I remember it. But I had another idea for another golf show, and that show went on the air. And I got myself a little office. It was a penthouse office, I called it. It was a storage room at the top of 119 West 57th Street. You had to walk out onto an outside fire escape to get up to a fire door to get in the room. The room was filled with junk. I was paying virtually nothing for it. The owner liked me. He let me have the space, and I figured I'd try to sell my golf show. To make a long story short, it took a year. I had $300 left in the checking account. I couldn't make the next mortgage payment on a house. I had $10,000 in unpaid bills in a big cardboard box. I was only paying people who would turn things off. Nobody else got the money. And I sold it. I pulled it out. It's a great story. I pulled it out the last second. It was called the CBS Golf Classic. It stayed on the air for 10 years, and I suddenly had my own company. I produced that show for the first 4 years. CBS and I owned it 50-50, and then I went on to do other things, even though the money was still coming in. And Dark Shadows happened. I came up with a crazy idea, dreamt some wacky thing, went in and sold it, became Dark Shadows. That went on the air. And once Dark Shadows got on the air, I got more involved creatively. And then one day I just decided, I got to cut out the middleman. I'm going to become the director, and I'll do the whole thing myself. And that's the way it happened. We sat down and we started to try and figure out a story. And then Dick came up with the idea of the Seattle Underground. And I said, what we got to do, Dick, is it's got to be, a sequel, but at the same time, it's got to be like the same movie. It's got, we got to get that same feeling. So he came up with the basic idea of the guy collecting the blood and the whole business. This thing became the Night Strangler. All of these cameos came from my memory of movies when I was a kid. And that's the way I reach for these cameos. I remember Margaret Hamilton from The Wizard of Oz. I thought she'd be great as the professor. A guy who was cut out of the picture was George Tobias. He played somebody. I remembered him from all those old movies. Al Lewis from The Munsters. And Wally Cox, I remember him from Mr. Peepers. I used to watch Mr. Peepers all the time. And all of these people jumped into my mind. It'd just be great fun to cast them in these roles. I mean, there's the little librarian would be so perfect. I thought, Wally Cox, wouldn't he be wonderful in that part? And of course, he did it, and he was great.
This current series of strangulations.
Scott Brady, there's the guy. I remembered Scott Brady from years ago, and I got him to play the cop.
How long have you been with the Chronicle?
Oh, a little less than 2 weeks.
And I mean, he was so happy to play the cop. And I would say to him, hang around the set, Scott. If there's anything that I can think of to stick you into, I'll do it. And he did it. He was always there. Pick up scenes that appeared in the picture because I kept Scott around, and he would do anything just to be in the film. And from that point on, Scott Brady became part of my stock company. I used him in 1 million pictures. I loved him. He was great. So when the picture was over, Universal came along, took the series over, made a deal with ABC, licensed it, and then McGavin and they went out and made 13 Hours or whatever they made. If I could do a remake of the original story or the sequel script that we wrote, which was really very much like the original story, takes place in New York, finds the same guy again who didn't die. Yeah. Yes, I believe that would work. Trilogy of Terror, Night Stalker, Night Strangler have lived all these years may sound amazing to some. But the thing that has kept it alive all these years are the new formats, the home videos, the DVDs. But the thing that has really kept it alive is that that was just an opportunity to stay alive. Those shows stayed alive because of what they were. And those shows today hold up. You can look at some of those shows that are still alive but shouldn't be alive. These things hold up. They hold up. They're just as good today as they were then. Absolutely just as good because of the storytelling.